Hello. The turning point. Cathar Love 119. Life consists of cycles. Most of us don't become aware of them personally until we have a few years under our belt, and then we start to notice, oh wow, that happened. That's more or less every 10 years apart, or there's a certain month of the year that seems to crop up when there was major changes in one's life. And one starts to see these cycles, these patterns. And it applies to pretty much everything. Certainly as regards Catharism, we can look at the first millennium, year 1000, and the second millennium, the year 2000, or 1999, as it turns out. But this was when the Cathars more or less arrived in Europe, made themselves known on the cosmic scene, and lo and behold, their return is being ushered in ever since around the year 2000, and it's been growing in strength ever since. Good thing for the world. People, astrological scholars, many talk about the Age of Aquarius. Some say it is upon us. The Age of Aquarius has already dawned. Others say it's about to. But there's no doubt there is a cosmic, spiritual and mystical upheaval going on in the world at this present moment. If we look around, the world seems to be more, not religiously, well yes, even in that respect, there are groups of people who are definitely becoming more religiously inclined, and yet there's a huge number of people now who are becoming spiritually inclined, mystically inclined. In other words, they're taking charge of their own mind, body, soul. They're taking charge of their own spirituality and moving away from others telling them what to do, what to think and what to say. And I think that's a good thing. There are people, regards the Catholic Church, and especially years ago, when they regarded themselves as slaves to Christ or the Church. Don't like that word, slave. And others, of course, talk about submission to the will of God, etc. Submission, things like that, doesn't stand very well with me. It's like people who are the royal family, lovely people. So what? There's lots of lovely people. They're people born into power and privilege and what have you, and they have to. They often work very, very hard for that, but I don't believe you look up to anybody, but I believe equally you don't look down on anybody. We're not equal. Some are smarter, some are dumber, some are more artistic, some are less artistic, some are mathematical wizards with mathematics and others are hopeless with mathematics. So of course we're not equal, but we're all entitled to equality of justice, education, the happiness in life, fulfilling our own destiny, or the means to fill that, education. These are things where equality comes in, and we're all entitled to equal measure in that respect. I mean, and what does one want? Certainly from a Cathar point of view, you want financial independence. Let's get away from poverty. There's nothing good about poverty. I mean, I'd like someone to explain one good thing about poverty. We all need the wherewithal to live a good life. Yes, fulfill our lives. Well, fulfillment. We want sexual fulfillment. We hope to meet a partner that our soulmate or soulmates as we go through life, with which we can have a loving relationship. Depending on your libido, the sexual side will be more or less. Many people want children, that's fine, but the world is an overpopulated place, so I think 1 or 2 is about the maximum these days, because it's a real worry for the Earth's survival, just the sheer overpopulation and the overpopulation in the years to come. And what can we do about that? How can you tell people not to have children? I mean, China had the one child policy. It's now gone off it, and yet, strangely enough, most couples over there, now they don't have to. They can have more than one child. Most of them still prefer to have one child, because just for the simple cost of education and putting that child through, giving them a really good start in life. So that they tend to be sticking with the one child anyway, even though it's no longer the policy. But there's this mystical, spiritual awareness that's overtaking the planet. Someone who I respect said to me that she's noticed not just the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer, but the people who are really into the spiritual side of life, the mystical side of life, and there are those who are more caught up in we'll call it the material side of life. The gap is becoming wider. We're finding it harder sometimes to talk at the same level or on the same wavelength. I think social media, although a lot of people are not happy with it, and there's a lot of negatives with social media, it's a great place for criminals to ply their nefarious ways, and yet it's brought the world so much closer. I have met the most wonderful people from other countries. I've been there to visit them, all which would not have happened except through social media. YouTube, I mean, the likes of me can have our own channel and just go out and say and really express our feelings, what's on our mind, our point of view, and from the comments that come in from that, you can gauge what other people think about that. But this is absolutely wonderful. Amazon, the largest bookstore in the world, it's a monopoly. Not a lot of people are happy about that, and yet Amazon or its subsidiaries have given people the chance to publish their own works, whether they're art, poetry, whatever, fiction, novels. Whereas a publisher wouldn't even look at them. Not a hope in heaven or hell of having a publisher interested in your works. So I'm told something, it's come to the stage now where something over 80% of the books that are published by the traditional publishers were already published on Amazon, and they've done well, and the publishers, oh, I can see that doing well, and then they'll take the gamble. So all this bubbling of information, this amazing level of connectivity between people that we just simply would not have known through social media. I mean, there's virtually not a subject that one can think about that if one hits Google that there's not at least some information on. Now, of course, we know there's a lot of false information out there, fake news, dissemination, people pushing their own agenda. I'm pushing my agenda. What's my agenda? It's very simple. I'm not out to convert, if you like, anybody to Gnostic Catharism. But I do feel my purpose in life, my final purpose in life, is to make people aware of the Cathar philosophy, of the history of Catharism, simply because, not just my high regard for it, but I just feel it's something that it fills a gap, a spiritual and mystical gap in the world, which the world religions are unable to fill. Excuse me. And there's a reason for that. Religions, doesn't matter which one, want their truths in cemented in. So their truths are immovable, not subject to change. Which means, if you belong to that particular group, you need to think and run your lives according to that group. And the other thing, certainly on a personal level, I don't think the Creator made anybody less than anybody else. We might have different talents and so forth, but as people, or put it another way, I don't think the Creator has any less love for one group more than another, for males more than females, and yet each religion insists on having women as secondary or second class or subservient. In the Cathar times, one of the things that the Cathars used to make fun of the church was because in a room full of Cathars, if they were gathering, whether you were a lord or a farmer or a weaver or leather worker, woodworker, or nothing at all, everybody in that room was equal. Male, female, young, old, and irrespective of whether you were aristocratic or the lower echelons of life. Everybody was equal. But in the church, talk about a line you can't cross, there was a line that the women folk could not cross. They stayed at the back. So the Cathars, of course, pointed this out to the people, and the fact that with us, there's equality of the sexes, but with the church you're not. You're subservient. So of course people related more to the egalitarian, to the equality of sexes within Catharism, and it's always been like that. So they were quite unique in that respect, and things haven't changed today. I mean, in most religions, women are still second class, or they're fighting for some position, some status within that particular religion, and it doesn't matter which one. And so Catharism stands alone. But the other thing is that Catharism is a way of life, a philosophy, and not a religion, because a religion, as we said, or as I have said, cements its truths. Whereas Gnostic Catharism, the one thing about it is that you take charge, you work out your destiny, you're in charge of your destiny, you listen to yourself, you make sense of what's going on. You make the decision about your mind, body and soul, and this is even keeping with well, in Australia at the moment they're just introducing euthanasia. They've had it before, and various people, the churches of Australia managed to get it pushed aside. They're still fighting against it, and all it is just allowing people to die with dignity. And it's you have to have 2 pills, and you have to be able to do it yourself, and sound mind, and nobody can do it for you. But it seems to be arriving, and once it's in one state, it'll be in the others. I mean, this is the other thing, that it's one thing to live one's life with dignity, but I think it's even more important to be able to die with dignity. So there's this right throughout the world. It's I feel it's palpable. There's people, well, certainly on YouTube, standing up and talking about channeling. Not just channeling from their guides, but also channeling with extraterrestrials. I've noticed a few messages that we've had from extraterrestrials, and the one thing that they're wanting us to do is to raise the level of our spirituality. If we look at the crop circles, and I don't mean some of those, some of them may have been man-made, but the complexity of these crop circles, and some of them are immense. I mean, they're half a mile. I mean, there's the Maori man in Australia up on a plateau which no one could ever get to. It was 8 miles long and dug a foot into this hard soil. It's not man-made, and who's got the time and the money or whatever to do that anyway? So, but the big thing about it is that they're there and they're just saying, become more spiritual, become more environmentally. You're destroying your world. They're trying to give us really good advice. They're telling us to stop warring on each other. It's any time that looks like there's something nuclear going on, they become extremely active. So whether it's this world or that world, there's this shift, this cosmic shift in our way of thinking, and especially the spiritual and mystical, and it's a magical way of thinking. People talk about manifesting. Now this is hardly a secret. Ways to actually make things happen, or create for yourself. The ways of going about this are not secret, but people there are talking about it, explaining how they manifested for themselves. And in the book, The Dialogues, even Henri talks about if you wish to, there's something that you really want, and you know what it is and very specific about it, then there's a process whereby you should manifest this for yourself. And here he said that this is an ability for all humans. Everybody has it, some more than others, but maybe it's been sublimated. It's been pushed down in our psyche because of our just the busyness and all the things that we do in our workaday world, in our lives, raising families, just trying to survive in many cases, and we don't have the time for that quietness and stillness and so forth, and understanding the manifestation, and also what is it that we really want. I'm amused by someone and said, "Oh, I want to win this lottery." "Oh, yeah. What do you want to do?" "Oh, I just want to spend the rest of my life on a cruise ship and just cruising around for the rest of my life." "Oh, okay." I said, "Well, what if you won that? You want it come up to you some other way? Is the lottery necessary?" "Oh, no. If it happened, that's all I want." So it wasn't the fact that the person wanted to manifest money. It was something very specific that the person wanted. So the money was just the means of getting there. So what I'm trying to say is that a lot of people, they say, "Oh, I want to win this or win that," but they haven't really even thought out the specifics of what they really want. So therefore, but it doesn't matter in what direction we're talking about on a spiritual level. There seems to be a cosmic change. Henri de Boer's in Dialogues, he said, and I do agree with him, he said, the future is not cemented. The future is subject to so many different variables. But he did say, what you do and say and think today is already creating your future reality. You're a pretty miserable guy today, and you're giving everyone a hard time, and you're stuffing yourself with junk food. Believe me, anyone can predict your future reality. But if you're living a decent life, you're doing the best you can, and you're a decent person, you're a good person, you've got a genuineness of spirit and so forth. These things, even though you're not doing it for that reason, one way or another, they'll come back to you, be rewarded, or caught karma, or caught up what you like. So it's so important. What we do and say and think today is already creating our future reality. And I'd like to say that by doing that, you create a cosmic change for the better within yourself. Bye-bye for now.